Spider-Man has faced impossible odds before, but never like this. A war beyond his understanding is raging, and survival is anything but guaranteed. With an enchanted suit and the fight of his life ahead, will Peter prevail? Or is this the battle that finally breaks him? We open with Peter Parker juggling errands when a new villain called Burnout attacks. Before Spidey can react, Burnout turns into a flock of birds right as Vincent Von Doom, now Sorcerer Supreme following the events of Blood Hunt, shows up. Doom offers Peter a deal: become his champion to face a looming cosmic threat. Peter declines, prompting Doom to ominously say, "The Covenant has been broken." At home, Peter faces personal setbacks. He lost some of Aunt May's feast money, burned Randy's gallery photos, and ruined Shay's gift after his battle with Burnout. Venting to Spider-Boy on a rooftop, their talk is interrupted by a red demon terrorizing New York. The demon manipulates gravity, overwhelming Peter, until Doom reappears. Doom explains that Doctor Strange once protected Earth by battling Cyttorak's Scion children, using enchanted reeds that grant multiple lives. The new Sorcerer Supreme wants Spidey to inherit that role. Doom gifts Peter a magical suit and 8 reeds of Ragador. Spidey charges into battle and quickly identifies the Scion's weakness, its black hole heart. Peter decides to straight-up dive in, turning into spaghetti in the process. Death itself, now Phil Coulson, appears, but the first reed resurrects Peter painfully. Before the issue ends, Doctor Strange's astral form appears and hints to the brutal journey ahead. Now in his magical suit, Peter breaks into the Sanctum Sanctorum with Black Cat to steal a magic spell book. He speaks with Strange's astral projection, learning the covenant with Cyttorak was a trap. Strange cheated, but so did Cyttorak. The enchanted reeds protect Peter from death, but Strange warns resurrection is agonizing and limited. We meet Cyttorak's Scions, some resigned, others desperate for freedom. Back on Earth, Peter confides in Norman Osborn, who's shutting down Oscorp. Norman warns that dying too often will break Peter mentally. Before Peter can process it, he's teleported into his next Scion fight. This Scion manipulates portals and space, making it impossible to hit. Thinking scientifically, Peter shrinks the Scion and himself into the quantum realm. In doing so, he explains that shrinking infinitely makes you both the smallest and largest version of yourself simultaneously. Using that paradox, Peter manages to tag the Scion with his giant finger, but the move kills him. Another reed of Ragador spent. Peter respawns at dinner with Shay and Randy, but is immediately pulled into another fight. This time, the Scion takes the form of a creepy little girl. Peter's next Scion battle forces him to relive his worst memories, starting with Uncle Ben's death. The Scion, appearing first as a little girl until revealing herself as a red demon in bondage gear, pulls Peter through every tragic death he's witnessed in his life. Gwen Stacy, Captain Stacy, Jean DeWolf, Kraven, and Eddie Brock. The Scion manipulates time, making the fight impossible, until Peter outsmarts her with science. Before the time jump, he'd theorized a device to detect future jumps. A future version of himself suddenly appears, saying, "Don't you love a time paradox?" and surprises the Scion by punching her in the face. In pure frustration, the Scion overloads Peter's mind, forcing him to live every moment of his life at once. It's pure torture, and Peter has to burn another reed of Ragador, returning to dinner with Shay and Randy. Haunted and withdrawn, Peter leaves the table. Shay senses something wrong and tries to comfort him, offering a picnic to lift his spirits. Back home, Peter feels guilty for missing Aunt May's feast event. Seeking support, Peter apologizes to Black Cat for being a bad friend. Felicia accepts the apology and urges him to find joy, even with everything weighing him down. At Shay's picnic the next day, she opens up about her struggles at Ravencroft, giving Peter a glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, 2 other Scions debate striking now, but decide to study Peter more. Elsewhere, Juggernaut hears the voice of Cyttorak while playing 2K with the X-Men team led by Cyclops. The next issue opens with Peter building the chronal device to beat the time-bending Scion. As he works, he vents to Doctor Strange, frustrated that no matter how hard he trains in magic, he keeps dying. Strange brushes it off as part of the covenant, but Peter's nearing his breaking point, questioning if there's another way. Meanwhile, Randy Robertson hosts an art exhibit featuring Peter's Spider-Man photos, framing Spidey as the eternal underdog. But Peter rejects that image, hating the idea of Spider-Man as a loser who just keeps getting back up. Sensing danger, Peter's instincts prove right. This time, two signs appear: the twin Syra, who embodies death, and Calyx, who represents pain. Fed up with waiting, Peter takes the fight to them. First up is Calyx, who unleashes demonic dogs on New York, but Peter surprises him by healing the civilians, pointing out that Peter cares more about his people than even Doctor Strange did. Spider-Man tricks Calyx with a spell called the Binding of Arceus, which is actually a banishment spell, and yes, Arceus is a Pokemon, not a real spell. The move stuns Calyx, and Spidey lands what should be the winning blow. But Calyx won't back down until Cyrus steps in, embarrassed by her brother. She takes center stage, ready to challenge Peter herself. She traps Peter in a cruel challenge that doesn't sound like much at first. Hold on to an orb or lose. But the real weapon is the brutal future the orb forces the holder to witness. Syra shows Peter everyone he loves dying one by one. Not just dying, but dying unceremoniously, their lives amounting to nothing. Aunt May succumbs to a global plague, her only regret never saying goodbye to Peter. Mary Jane is murdered by Hobgoblin after a life of hardship, dying young with nothing to show for it. J. Jonah Jameson dies suddenly of an aneurysm, his legacy quickly erased. Shay is killed by a drunk driver. Randy dies protesting for the unhoused, doubting if he made a difference. Felicia dies in a botched heist. Betty passes fearing for her family. And even Norman dies alone in his lab with his life's work slowly forgotten. But it's the deaths of Miles Morales, Spider-Boy, and Ghost Spider that break Peter. He begs Master Death not to take them and breaks down in front of Coulson. Syra drives the knife deeper, delivering her nihilistic truth. Everyone dies. Everything is forgotten. And life is nothing. While Peter reels, Calyx cheats and attacks, only for Syra to stop him, showing even she has rules. Peter holds onto the orb until it disappears and wins the challenge. Still, the emotional scars are deep. Broken and fed up, Peter tells Strange he's done and he can't continue as Earth's champion. Syra may have lost the challenge, but she succeeded in shattering Peter's spirit. Back in the Crimson Dimension, Calyx is furious with Syra for ruining his fight with Spider-Man. Syra shrugs him off, reminding him it's time for their brother Kratos. Sidorak, as usual, stays silent, offering no guidance to his children. Meanwhile, Peter is in a deep depression. He stopped being Spider-Man entirely. Isolated from everyone, he skips Randy's art show, ghosts Shay, and ignores Aunt May. Syra's nihilistic vision broke him. When a grocery store robbery happens, Peter barely reacts, so drained he can't even stop it. Spider-Boy steps in instead and stops the crook. He then tries to pull Peter back from the edge. Peter, bitter and hopeless, tells the 10-year-old Bailey the universe will crush him too. It's a heartbreaking moment. Doctor Strange's astral projection watches over Peter, surprisingly joined by Syra. She admits she might have gone too far. She's shown Strange thousands of death visions before, but never millions like she did to Peter. Peter spirals further, breaking up with Shay after 2 weeks of silence. Shay shares a powerful moment about her time as a nurse, how she learned to love people she knew she'd lose. But Peter's too far gone to listen to her help. Desperate, he turns to Black Cat. They share a kiss, a fleeting comfort, but it doesn't fix anything. Syra observes Peter and reflects on humanity's strange need for connection. She still has much to learn about humans. Elsewhere, Calyx lashes out, trying to escape his casket prison. Attacked by worms, he powers through by sheer will. The casket, meant to restrain him, proves weaker than expected. The next Scion Kratos arrives looking to face Earth's champion, but he instead is met with the X-Men. Peter wakes up in Felicia's apartment. Felicia tells him to lock up as she heads to work, a simple act that highlights the contrast between them. Peter remains aimless, broken, and lost. Meanwhile, The X-Men are battling Kratios, who sneers that humans are weak compared to the might of Sidorak and his ilk, right as Juggernaut barrels in and cold cocks him. Kane Marco, empowered by Sidorak himself, delivers the perfect comeback. Do I count as one of those ilk? It's a brutal reminder that his connection to Sidorak's power makes him more than a match for the science. In Sidorak's realm, we meet another scion, seemingly the oldest and most respected. He argues that with Earth's champion absent, the ancient pact along with the Covenant should be broken. Sidorak remains silent, but the Scions prepare to break free and chase their own desires. The fight makes its way to the feast shelter where Aunt May is hosting an event, putting Shay and Randy in danger. But Peter, lost in his grief, doesn't care. Doctor Strange reappears in his physical form, delivering a grim warning to Peter. This fight is bigger than Sidorak. As he speaks, Calix is shown contracting the blight after crossing the Covenant in the Crimson Dimension. Now pale and hollow-eyed, he mutters, "There's work to do," fully consumed by the urge to spread the blight. Strange explains, the casket wasn't just a prison for the Scions. It sealed away the blight, a formless, unstoppable force that exists only to exterminate life. The only thing that keeps it contained is the ancient pact Strange made with Sidorak. The true horror? The blight causes soul rot, forcing victims to destroy the thing they love most. Strange pleads with Peter to step up, but Peter, still broken, refuses. He's done. With Strange unable to snap Peter out of it, Syra unexpectedly steps in. The Scion who broke Peter with her nihilism now seems guilty. She basically says everything Strange just said. Syra then tries to reach him, not with philosophy, but with a vision of what's happening right now, and shows Peter a terrifying glimpse of the Blight's power. Calix fully consumed, slaughtering their brother Kratios, causing Syra to shed tears. Calix then throws Juggernaut like he's nothing, something that should be impossible because you know the old saying, no one can stop the Juggernaut. The story picks up with Peter still drowning in apathy, until something finally rattles him. He sees Syra, Scion of Death herself, brought to tears. For the first time, Peter sees the horror is bigger than himself, and if it's enough to shake Syra, it's real. They arrive too late at the feast shelter. Aunt May, Randy, Shay, and a civilian are dead. Peter realizes his inaction cost lives. Accepting he'd rather fail trying than let people die, he uses his last reeds to beg Master Death, Phil Coulson, to revive them. Coulson agrees, and Peter returns to the fight. Now with the X-Men and Spider-Man uniting, the heroes might now stand a chance against the Blight. But Peter's strongest spell fails as the Blight shields Calix completely. Bored, Calix leaves to kill Sidorak, but not before he infects the entire X-Men. Only Juggernaut is immune due to his connection with Sidorak. Syra freezes time to stop the spread. She admits she now sees some value in humanity. Together, she and Peter chase Calix into the Crimson Dimension, but it's too late. Calix has killed the other Scions. Enraged, Syra shifts into what I think is her battle form and asks Peter to rouse Sidorak while she attempts to find and fight her brother Calix. Peter tries to confront Sidorak, but a huge blight monster appears. With Peter fixated on the monster, Calix appears behind him and snaps his neck, killing Spider-Man for good this time, and Master Death arrives to claim his soul. Juggernaut continues to battle the X-Men, realizing even his strength isn't enough to stop Calix or the growing blight. Meanwhile, in Sidorak's realm, Calix, now fully corrupted, gloats over Spider-Man's death and the broken covenant. Emboldened, he plans to kill Sidorak and even makes a disturbing pass at his sister Syra, showing how far gone he is. While New York descends into chaos, Peter's friends search for him, dodging civilians driven mad by the blight. Doctor Doom appears, clashing with the astral form of Doctor Strange. Strange accuses Doom of neglecting his duty as Sorcerer Supreme. If Doom had upheld the Covenant, the blight never would have broken through. Doom doesn't like when people bring up his wrongdoings and gets pissed off. As Coulson speaks, Syra begins to understand something she never had before, something even Sidorak, in all his power, has failed to grasp. Peter isn't weighed down by the deaths he's witnessed, but by the love he refuses to let go of. Sidorak is unmovable because loss has paralyzed him, but Peter endures because love drives him forward. For the first time, Syra sees the true strength in that. And with that understanding, she makes her choice. She gives up her immortality so that Spider-Man can live again. But something unexpected happens. She transfers some of her crimson power to him. Peter returns, reborn as a Spider-Naut, now bearing a Juggernaut-like form. Spider-Naut makes a jaw-dropping entrance, effortlessly knocking the blight right out of the X-Men. But the chaos is just beginning. Juggernaut launches him in a fastball special aimed at Calyx. But then Spider-Naut shifts his attention to a greater threat, the towering Mega Blight monster. As the X-Men battle Calyx, Strange and Doom take notice of the newfound power of Spider-Man. In the Crimson Dimension, Syra confronts her father, Sidorak, trying to explain that even he is grieving. He roars, "Nothing can hurt Sidorak." His pride won't let him admit it. Syra presses on. "When Calyx slaughtered your siblings, where were you? You did nothing. You let everything fall apart." Sidorak is silent, his facade cracking. Syra's words pierce through his invulnerable exterior. Grief has found him, whether he admits it or not. As Peter prepares to cast his powerful spell, Sidorak, now fully awakened by Syra's defiant words, strikes him aside without hesitation. The god's action is not one of rage, but of necessity. He's moved by Syra's defiance and the weight of her conviction. With this, Sidorak makes an unexpected and decisive move. He becomes the Crimson Casket, taking on its role as the ultimate seal that contains the blight. In this act, Sidorak finally acknowledges the weight of his responsibility. No longer the distant god, he steps into the role of protector, committing himself to safeguarding his children and Earth from the devastating blight. With a renewed covenant, Strange opens a portal for Spider-Man, now in his normal form. The battle is over and Juggernaut carries Calyx's unconscious body over his shoulder, and he is imprisoned in Sidorak's throne. As the story ends, Peter and Bailey attend the funeral of the window washer who died earlier in the series. It becomes a quiet celebration of life's meaning, marking the end of one journey and the hope for another. Peter then takes the time to seek amends with his loved ones, apologizing to everyone he's hurt along the way. He repairs his relationship with Randy at his new photo exhibit featuring pictures of Spider-Man's most prominent battles. But the true emotional moment comes when Peter reconnects with Shay. Their bond reignites in a heartfelt reunion. Peter stands alongside Shay as they look toward the future together. This is more than just a victory over villains. It's a journey of redemption, healing, and love. The series ends with this moment of quiet resolution, where the hero finds not only peace, but reconnects with the people he loves.